Welcome to our deep dive into Dave Ramsey's The Total Money Makeover.
Oh, yeah, a classic.
A classic. I mean, this book is like a straight talking guide to getting your finances in shape.
It really is.
And finally, like reaching that financial peace everyone talks about.
Yeah.
So we're going to break down Ramsey's main ideas,
Okay.
tackle some of those common money myths that we all kind of fall for sometimes.
hmm
And hopefully by the end, you'll have like a toolkit of practical steps you can use to build a better financial future for yourself.
I think one of the things that really grabbed me about Ramsey's approach is how simple he keeps things.
Oh, yeah.
He's been both broke and a millionaire.
Right.
So he's seen both sides of the coin, and he really believes that a lot of millionaires keep their finances pretty straightforward.
So you're saying it's not all about some super complicated investing scheme or finding some like secret loophole?
No, not at all.
Okay.
It's about having clear strategies,
Hmm.
things anyone can understand and actually use.
Yeah.
It's about going back to the basics
That makes a lot of sense because sometimes the simplest solutions are the ones that work best.
for sure.
But let's be honest, the world of personal finance sometimes feels anything BGT simple.
Absolutely.
There's like a million different opinions out there.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to get caught up in those money myths that Ramsey talks about.
Oh, yeah, totally. And one of the biggest myths that he tackles head on
Mhm.
is this idea that you need debt to build wealth.
Okay.
He pushes back hard against that
Yeah.
and emphasizes how risky debt can really be.
It's interesting because we always hear these stories about how wealthy people use debt to their advantage, but Ramsey's saying something different.
Yeah, he points out that a lot of the truly wealthy people out there actually use debt a lot less than we think.
Okay.
They understand those risks
Mhm.
and focus on building their wealth through owning things and making smart investments.
Makes you rethink things, for sure.
It does.
And speaking of things that can get complicated, let's
Yeah.
talk about lending money to family or friends.
Ramsey has some pretty interesting stories about how even when you loan money with the best intentions,
Yeah.
it can strain those relationships and
Right.
even cause financial problems for both people involved.
Oh, for sure. It happens all the time.
So is he saying we should never lend money to family or friends?
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
I mean, his advice is definitely to be careful.
Okay.
He encourages people to really think about what could happen before they lend money to anyone, especially if it could put their own finances at risk.
I think that's good advice.
Yeah.
Lending money can lead to all sorts of complications,
Right.
especially if there are already like underlying issues in a relationship.
Hmm.
And while we're talking about risky situations, Ramsey is also really clear about his stance on co-signing loans.
Oh, yeah. He does not like that at all.
He sees it as a trap.
A total trap.
Can you explain why?
Well, he puts it this way. If the bank needs you to co-sign, it's because they don't actually think the person borrowing the money is going to pay it back.
So you're basically the backup plan.
Exactly. That's a little scary.
It is, and as he points out, it can have some really bad consequences.
Okay.
If the person you co-sign for doesn't pay, you're stuck with the whole debt.
Oh, wow.
It can wreck your credit and put a huge financial strain on you that you weren't prepared for.
That's a good point. It's important to think carefully before co-signing for anyone.
Yeah, you got to protect yourself too.
Exactly. And that leads us to another important topic. Ramsey tackles those predatory lending practices.
Oh, those are bad news.
He's especially worried about things like payday loans,
Whoa.
rent-to-own schemes, and those tote-the-note car lots.
Yeah, those are rough,
These are the types of loans that target people who are already struggling financially.
right? Often people who don't have a lot of other options.
Just so messed up.
It is. He's really critical of how these practices take advantage of vulnerable people,
Yeah.
trapping them in debt with these crazy high interest rates.
It's like they're designed to keep people in debt forever.
It can feel that way.
Uh,
And he even shares some statistics that are just shocking. Did you know the average interest rates on these loans can be anywhere from 400 to 600%?
That's insane.
It's a system that benefits the lenders while hurting the people who need help the most.
It's really sad.
It is. And you know, something else that a lot of people think is a smart move, but Ramsey totally debunks
What's...
leasing a car.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's some kind of sophisticated financial strategy.
Right. It seems like a good deal sometimes.
Yeah. But he breaks it down and shows how leasing a car is often way more expensive in the long run,
Okay.
especially compared to buying a used car.
Makes sense. You have to factor in all those hidden costs and the fact that you never actually own the car.
Exactly. It's like throwing money away.
So what about credit cards? There's this idea that you need a credit card to build good credit.
Mm.
But Ramsey seems to have a different view.
Well, that's where his whole cash-based approach comes in.
Right.
He argues that credit cards can be dangerous,
Yeah.
especially for young people who might not fully grasp how much debt they can rack up. He's not totally against them,
Okay.
but he's very cautious about their use.
I can see why, especially when you consider that statistic he mentions.
Which one?
That most college seniors already have credit card debt even before they graduate.
Oh, yeah, that's a scary one.
It really shows how easy it is to fall into that credit card trap.
Absolutely. It's a good reminder to be careful.
Okay, so we've talked about some of these common money myths that Ramsey debunks.
Yeah.
Now, what about his famous baby steps?
Ah, yes, the baby step.
This is his 7-step plan to get your finances in order and start building wealth.
Exactly. He's all about taking action.
So can you give us like a quick overview of what those steps are?
Sure. So the first step is all about building a starter emergency fund of $1,000.
That's like your first safety net.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about having a little cushion to handle unexpected expenses
Okay.
so you don't have to rely on credit cards or go deeper into debt.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then what's next?
Well, once you've got that $1,000 saved, you move on to step 2, which is tackling all your debt, except for your house.
Okay, all the debt except the house.
Right. And he has a specific method for doing this.
What's that?
He calls it the debt snowball.
The debt snowball.
Yeah, have you heard of that?
I have, but I'm not totally sure I understand how it works.
Okay, well, it's basically about paying off your smallest debts first,
Okay.
regardless of the interest rates.
Wait, so you're not saying pay off the highest interest rate debt first?
Not necessarily now. Ramsey argues that while mathematically it might make more sense to prioritize the high-interest debt,
Yeah.
the psychological impact of getting those quick wins with the smaller debts is more powerful.
Oh, interesting.
It creates this sense of accomplishment that motivates you to keep going.
So it's more about changing your behavior than just doing the math perfectly.
Right. It's about using those small wins to keep you engaged and motivated.
Yeah, because it feels good to make progress.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And every debt you pay off, no matter how small, reinforces your commitment and builds your confidence.
So it's like a positive feedback loop.
Totally. It's like you're hacking your brain's reward system.
Okay, that's fascinating. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah, it's pretty clever.
Okay, so we've tackled those small debts. We're feeling good. What's the next step in Ramsey's plan?
All right, step 3 is all about building a fully funded emergency fund.
So this is different from that initial $1,000.
Yes, this one's bigger.
Okay.
This is meant to cover 3 to 6 months of your living expenses.
So a much bigger safety net.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about having enough saved up to handle those bigger unexpected events.
Right, those true emergencies, not just like a minor inconvenience.
Right, like if you suddenly lose your job or have a major car repair, things that could really mess up your finances if you're not prepared.
Okay, so the emergency fund is like a buffer zone.
Yeah.
To protect you from those financial hits.
Exactly. It's crucial for building a solid foundation.
So once we've got that emergency fund in place, what's next?
Well, then we finally start focusing on building long-term wealth.
Okay, so we've tackled the debt, built up our emergency fund, and now it's time to invest.
That's right. Step 4 is all about investing 15% of your household income for retirement.
15%. That sounds like a lot.
It can seem like a big chunk,
Yeah.
but Ramsey really stresses starting early.
Okay.
He emphasizes how powerful compound interest is and how even starting with small amounts early on
Right.
can make a huge difference in the long run.
That's the thing where your earnings start earning their own earnings, right?
Exactly. It's like a snowball effect.
Yeah. The earlier you start, the more time your money has to grow.
Precisely. Time is your best friend when it comes to investing.
So it's not just about how much you invest, but also for how long.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So after retirement savings, what's next on the list?
Well, after you've started building a solid foundation for your future, the next step is thinking about your kids' education.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Step 5 is all about college funding.
And with college costs going up all the time?
Yeah, it's a huge burden for a lot of families.
Sure.
But Ramsey encourages parents to start saving as early as possible
Okay.
and look into different college savings options, like 529 plans and ESAs.
Can you explain those a bit more for people who might not be familiar?
Sure. So 529 plans are basically investment accounts, specifically for college savings.
Okay.
They're run by the state and offer some tax advantages.
So you're not paying taxes on the money that grows in the account.
That's right, as long as you use the money for qualified education expenses.
So it's a way to make your savings go further.
Exactly. And then there are ESAs, which stand for Coverdell Education Savings Accounts.
Okay.
These are another type of savings account that's also tax advantaged.
Mm-hmm.
But they can be used for a wider range of education expenses.
Oh, interesting.
Like you could use them for K-12, not just college.
So they're more flexible.
Yeah, but they also have lower contribution limits.
Okay.
So it really depends on your situation and what you're saving for.
Sounds like there's a lot to consider when it comes to college savings.
There is, but Ramsey gives some good advice in the book.
So we've covered the first 5 baby steps.
Yeah, we're making progress.
We've built a starter emergency fund, tackled our debt, got a fully funded emergency fund going, invested for retirement, and started saving for college.
Right.
What are those final 2 steps in Ramsey's plan?
Okay, so the last 2 steps are all about reaching true financial freedom
Okay.
and using your wealth to make a difference.
I like that.
So step 6 is paying off your home early.
Owning your home free and clear, that's a huge goal for a lot of people.
It is, and Ramsey talks about how rewarding it is,
Yeah.
both emotionally and financially.
Right. It's about that feeling of security and freedom.
Exactly.
But paying off a mortgage, especially these days, can feel overwhelming.
Oh, yeah, it's a big chunk of change.
So what does Ramsey suggest for tackling that?
Well, he recommends being strategic,
Okay.
like making extra payments towards the principal whenever you can,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe refinancing to a shorter-term loan.
So it's about being proactive and finding ways to speed up the process.
Exactly. It's about taking control.
And then that brings us to the final step, step 7.
Yeah, the grand finale,
What's that all about?
building wealth and giving back to others.
So it's not just about accumulating money for yourself.
No.
It's about using it to make a positive impact.
Exactly. Ramsey believes that once you've reached a point of financial stability
Right.
and taking care of your own needs, you have this responsibility to use your resources to help others.
I like that a lot. It's
Okay.
about more than just yourself.
Yeah, and he shares some incredible stories in the book
Oh, yeah.
about people who have used their wealth to do amazing things in their communities and around the world.
That's inspiring.
It really is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a reminder that money can be a powerful tool for good.
Absolutely. So we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive.
Yeah, we have.
We've talked about busting money myths,
Mm.
Ramsey's famous baby steps, and even some of those bigger ideas about how we think about money. But there's still more to explore.
Definitely.
In part 2, we'll dig deeper into some of Ramsey's key strategies and insights that can help you actually put these baby steps into action.
Sounds good.
So stay tuned for that.
All right. You know, one of the things that really struck me as we went through those baby steps is how Ramsey doesn't just focus on the, mechanics of personal finance.
Yeah, he's not just talking about spreadsheets and interest rates and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He really gets into the emotional side of money, like the why behind our financial decisions.
Yeah. It's almost like he's combining financial advice with a bit of therapy.
I know, right?
Yeah.
He's got that tough love approach,
Mm-hmm.
but he also recognizes that changing our behavior is a huge part of actually achieving financial success.
He talks about how we can sabotage ourselves with things like denial
Yeah.
and this constant need for approval from others.
That whole keeping up with the Joneses thing can be so destructive.
Yeah, trying to impress people with stuff you can't really afford.
Because we're on this treadmill of spending just to feel accepted.
But it often just leads to more debt and more stress.
And to make things worse, we're bombarded with all these money myths, these beliefs about money that can lead us down the wrong path.
Like thinking you need a credit card to build credit, or that leasing a car is a smart financial move.
Exactly, things we've already talked about.
Yeah, Ramsey is all about busting those myths and giving us practical principles that actually work.
He's not afraid to call out the financial industry for perpetuating some of those myths too.
Especially the ones that benefit the lenders more than the borrowers.
Right. He's got strong opinions, but he backs them up with real-life examples and stories from people who've been there.
It makes it feel a lot more relatable.
Definitely.
You feel like you're having a conversation with someone who gets it.
And who's made those mistakes themselves.
Which brings us to one of his key principles, understanding the true cost of things, not just the monthly payment.
Yeah, it's about looking beyond the surface and really thinking about the long-term impact of your decisions.
So like when you're tempted to finance that new car or use a credit card for a big purchase, he wants you to stop and ask yourself, can I actually afford to pay for this in cash?
It's about taking responsibility and breaking free from that cycle of debt.
And sometimes breaking free means getting creative,
Oh, absolutely.
like finding ways to boost your income, even if it's temporary,
Mm-hmm.
selling things you don't need,
Yeah.
cutting expenses wherever you can.
It's about taking action, not just hoping things will magically change.
That's where having a budget and tracking your spending comes in.
Right. He's a huge believer in that.
Okay.
He even suggests using the envelope system where you allocate cash for specific spending categories.
Oh, like putting money in separate envelopes for things like groceries or entertainment.
Exactly.
That's a really visual way to create boundaries and avoid overspending.
Yeah, it can be really helpful for people who struggle with impulse purchases.
It's about being intentional with your spending and making it align with your goals.
Right. And that brings us back to those baby steps. Building that strong foundation is so important.
He's really serious about that fully funded emergency fund, those 3 to 6 months of expenses saved up.
It's your safety net to keep you from falling back into debt when something unexpected happens.
And then there's the emphasis on investing for the long term, especially in growth stock mutual funds.
Can you explain what those are for people who might not know?
Sure, growth stock mutual funds are basically baskets of stocks that are expected to grow at a faster rate than average.
Okay.
They're considered riskier than some other investments, but they also have the potential for higher returns over time.
And Ramsey sees those as a key part of building wealth for the future.
He believes that consistent, disciplined investing is how you achieve financial independence.
And let's not forget about saving for college.
Oh, yeah, especially with tuition costs constantly rising.
Ramsey encourages parents to start early.
Okay.
Look into those different college savings options we discussed.
Right, the 529 plans and ESAs.
Exactly. And to think outside the box, to fund their kids' education without going into debt.
It's about empowering your kids to pursue their dreams without being weighed down by student loans.
Yeah, it's about breaking that cycle and giving them a better chance at financial success.
I appreciate how Ramsey talks about more than just the numbers. He talks about contentment and generosity.
He challenges the idea that happiness comes from having more stuff.
Right. He's not against wealth,
No,
but he wants people to understand that true wealth is about more than just money.
it's about living a fulfilling life, using your money wisely, and making a difference in the world.
He talks about finding joy in simple things, being content with what you have.
Yeah, and being generous towards others.
It's a refreshing perspective, especially in a world that's so focused on material possessions.
It is. It's like he's saying money is a tool, not the goal.
Use it to create the life you want.
Exactly. A life that aligns with your values.
So you're saying a total money makeover isn't just about fixing your bank account
No, it's about changing your whole mindset around money.
and how it fits into your life.
Right. It's about achieving a sense of purpose and fulfillment, not just financial freedom.
He shares those inspiring stories of people who have used their money to help others pursue their passions and live a life that's truly meaningful.
Those stories are powerful.
They show you that financial success can lead to amazing things.
It's not about escaping to a beach somewhere, though. That sounds nice.
Yeah.
It's about having the freedom to create a life you love.
A life that makes a difference.
Exactly.
You know, as we wrap up this deep dive into the total money makeover, it really hits me how much of what Ramsey says goes beyond just personal finance.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, he's tapping into these bigger ideas about being content with what you have, being generous, and just living a life where you're making conscious choices.
He really challenges that idea that happiness comes from buying more stuff and encourages people to find joy in experiences, relationships, and making a difference with what they have.
And that connects to his whole idea about using money for fun, investing, and giving.
Yeah, those three things.
It's not about depriving yourself or just hoarding wealth.
Right. It's about finding that balance and making sure your spending reflects what you truly value.
So a total money makeover, it's not just about fixing your bank account.
No, it's bigger than that.
It's about changing your whole relationship with money.
About how it fits into your life.
Exactly. And that's what makes Ramsey's approach so interesting. It's not just about becoming financially free.
Right.
It's about feeling a sense of purpose and fulfillment.
I think that's a big part of it.
He shares all these inspiring stories about people who have used their financial success to help others follow their passions and live a life that's really meaningful.
It's really motivating.
It shows you what's possible when you get your money in order.
It's not about running away to a beach somewhere.
Although that sounds nice.
Yeah, it does.
But it's more about having the freedom to create a life that you're excited about.
A life that makes a difference.
So if you had to pick one main takeaway from the total money makeover, what would it be?
That's a good question.
Yeah, like that one piece of wisdom that everyone should remember.
I think it's that Anyone can achieve financial freedom
Okay.
if they're willing to challenge those old ways of thinking,
Mm-hmm.
be disciplined, and really embrace a mindset of abundance.
Instead of scarcity.
Exactly. It's about taking control, making smart choices, and believing in your ability to build a better future.
And it's a journey, right?
It is.
It takes effort and commitment.
And some sacrifice, too.
But as Ramsey shows us,
Yeah.
the rewards are worth it.
He gives us this message of hope,
Mm-hmm.
reminding us that no matter where you are on your financial journey,
Right.
you can always change direction
You can create a future with financial peace.
and abundance.
And even more importantly, he encourages us to use that financial freedom to live a life that's truly meaningful and impactful.
Well said.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the Total Money Makeover.
Time flies.
I hope you've gotten some valuable insights
Yeah.
and some inspiration to take control of your own financial journey.
Remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about making progress.
One step at a time.
Embrace the challenges and never stop learning.
Who knows, maybe one day you'll be sharing your own inspiring story of financial transformation.
That'd be great.
Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.
It's been fun.